If you speak to too many people about too many things, you're going to water down your message. They're not going to remember you. But if you're like, I'm going to help this type of person with this one thing, you can grow your business so fast. And that's what you should be doing. You pick that one person, one thing you're going to sell them, and sell it to $1 million. The internet's allowed us to talk very specifically to specific people. I realize that everyone has a different story, and that story needs to be told to different people in a different way. And that was one of those aha moments. I remember I was driving across the Triborough Bridge in New York, and I came to that realization. I remember the exact moment, and it was a big aha moment.
I'm so glad you tuned in to the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast today. This is your host, Jonathan Frederick. Today's episode, this one has been in the vault for more than a minute, as they say. This interview, I believe, was done in June or early July 2018. I never felt like it was the right time to launch it until now, and I really feel that it is the perfect time to launch it. And I promise you, everything in this episode is 110% relevant to today. If you don't want your marketing to stink, you should listen to the Garlic Marketing Show podcast with my friend Ian Garlic. He interviews on his show the top marketers and finds out what's working today. He talks about the failures, successes, the most productive current things that work. See, most people with marketing, we get it wrong. We focus on the selling. We focus on how to make money with it. That's not what it's about. So in this episode, we're going to learn how to market, not just use tactics to bring in people through funnels. We're going to learn how to market effectively and do that with pure intentions to where, yes, we need to make an income. Also, the people we are serving will benefit from being able to collaborate with us and allowing us to serve them in whatever need that we are meeting in our niche. And so, we'll learn how to do that effectively. We'll learn how to storytell effectively. We get into so many good topics in this episode. One of the biggest things for me is being transparent with your marketing and using authentic stories about yourself and your past and where your life is going, as opposed to focusing on, oh, well, who I'm serving is simply going to click this, which will lead them to this landing page and this and that. Like, all that aside, there's so much, it's so much simpler than that, but it's also so much deeper than that. So we have to really understand who our ideal customer is, who we are serving, what need we are meeting before we can even get into making a decision about what to do with marketing. So we'll get into all of that today with Ian. This is a great conversation. We learned a lot. Ian's background includes trading on Wall Street before the crash in 2008. It includes serving some big companies. He'll talk a bit about his background, how he got to where he is presently today. He also shares what he would have told himself if he could go back in time. So we're going to learn, who are you serving? We're going to learn how to market with story brands. We're going to learn how to learn from biographies and history books. We're going to learn how to decipher the one thing that you can really help with. Just one, and focus on that thing. So let's jump right in. If you enjoy this episode, tag me on Instagram. Take a quick screenshot if you're on an iPhone, an Android, whatever. Take a screenshot, upload that to your Instagram story, and tag at Heart Healthy Hustle and just be like, hey, John, really enjoyed this episode. It was great, and here's what I liked about it. Also, share it with one friend. We don't do any sponsoring on this show. We're almost to 50 episodes. 50. And no marketing. I don't sell anything. I don't pitch anything to you guys, not even things yet that I use personally. I think one day that will come. But as for right now, I ask one thing with fervor, and that is share this episode with just one person if you enjoyed it. If not, no hard feelings. In my life personally right now, I'm super pumped. A lot of great things have happened. Some stuff that I'm getting set up ahead of time prior to the start of 2019. Holidays coming up, weather's cooling off, there's crunchy leaves on the ground, fires are burning, friends are gathering, and it's just a good time all around. My favorite time of the year is autumn, and then second favorite would be Thanksgiving. Third favorite, probably Christmas. All-time favorite, of course, is just being on the beach, on the sand, in the summer sun. So I'm gonna work on that order. But anyway, let's stay focused. Done is better than perfect, and don't try to do too much. Also, I've been getting some great feedback from you on the Fantastic Friday episodes, so keep those coming. Let me know what you enjoyed about those episodes as well, and look for another one this Friday. I really enjoy them, and I strongly focus only on topics that I believe will benefit me to talk about, almost as a journal entry, and for you as the listener to say, hey, I really resonate with this, or hey, I'm really glad that you put this episode out, John. That being said, Friday, you will hear another fantastic Friday episode, and I'm going to keep those going, guys. You've asked for them, so they're coming. Also, we got some seriously cool guests every single Monday. We're going to be launching an episode with a world-class guest, and we're almost to episode 50, so we're on the countdown to 50.
The road to 50.
The point is, I'm so excited. I want to stay focused on the caliber of guests that I'm bringing to you as a listener. I just appreciate you. I appreciate your support. And I just want to say thank you to you as the listeners, because without you, there is no Heart Healthy Hustle. There is no show. All right, here's the interview with Ian Garlic. Enjoy it. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Frederick, and welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate having me on.
We usually start out with a favorite success quote, even just something that you live by, maybe a motto that keeps you motivated on the daily. Go ahead and share with my audience what your quote and what it means to you.
Probably one of the best ones is the one from Zig Ziglar, paraphrased. You can get anything in life you want, and if you help enough people get what they want. And I think that's a key to success is in marketing and business, is just really trying to help people and care about their success. It's critical to marketing these days because you need to care about providing benefit. They need someone. I mean, the definition of marketing is the perception of value. So if someone's going to perceive value, you need to be trying to provide that value up front.
I love to get into my guest stories. So if you would go back in time, maybe to around the age of 20, and share your story up till the present day.
Man, that's a lot of stuff. So I had my first job in sales at 20, went back to college, left college, and I wanted to get in the financial industry, but ended up working for a couple major financial companies and realized I didn't like the financial planning aspect of it. So I went and started trading and went to work for a hedge fund as a trader. I day traded, and then at one point I think I had like a $10 million account I was trading, lots of high-speed trading, and analyzed a ton of companies, and was there through the stock market crash and the trading actually on September 11, 2001. You know, everyone knows what happened then. So things got crazy. I realized I didn't want to just trade, so I took some time off and then went back to New York, went back into trading, realized again that I didn't like trading, went into commercial real estate, was in commercial real estate through the commercial real estate crash, and then realized I was really talented. I was the marketing aspect of it. It's what I enjoyed, and that's what I used to develop my real estate business. So I got into marketing. As I got into internet marketing, helping professionals, YouTube was purchased by Google, and I realized that, hey, this is going to be a big thing. Video marketing is where it's going to be. And I mean, that was 11, 12 years ago now, and been doing video marketing ever since, helping people find their stories, tell their stories, and constantly improving on it. Since then, I've written a few books, have my own podcast, done 230 episodes on the podcast, and worked with hundreds of clients over the years.
Right on. Yeah, so you definitely have done a lot over the years, and it's pretty obvious that you are adept at marketing just by looking at your emails. I noticed some things with the colors, attention-grabbing details, nothing annoying, but just very effective. So I just wanted to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get right into your area of expertise currently. Or actually, I'd love to get into what caused you to keep walking away from jobs like the day trading, like the real estate. Are you still in real estate, or what did that look like with marketing in real estate?
In real estate, when I was in investment grade properties, so it was commercial real estate, and you had to get in front in New York, and it's cutthroat, and you had to get in front of buyers and sellers that are very difficult to get in front of. And so that was around the time I started using LinkedIn, and this was 2006-ish, to get in with big companies. And because no one was using LinkedIn for marketing at that point, everyone was just using it to find jobs. So I used it to get in with some big name companies and was using it to get in front of people. And I read a lot of books on commercial real estate, and I adapted the techniques for building a commercial real estate practice to the internet. And so I kept doing that, and it worked. And it worked to get in front of people, and I had some pretty big deals on the table when the real estate market crashed. And, I did see the real estate market crashing. I saw it, and I liked real estate. But you don't really, while you help people buy stuff, it's such a transactional thing. And I really like helping grow businesses. So that's, where I kept coming back to, and, and it's listening to myself and what I enjoy doing, because, what part of it, because I spend so much time working. I want to enjoy what I'm doing on a daily basis. And for me, it's not just about making a ton of money. I realized that early on too.
For sure. So I'm really excited to speak with you on marketing because of the fact that you are an expert, but also you've got your own podcast that you mentioned. You said 230 episodes. That's a lot of episodes. Yep. Anyone else who has a podcast out there knows that. So your show, Garlic Marketing Show, stories and strategies that don't stink. Awesome show. On your website, you even have listed there that you've spoken with marketers like Neil Patel, Tucker Max, Ryan Deese. So I'd love to get your take on the current most effective marketing techniques.
Marketing techniques and tactics are changing faster and faster and faster. If someone's going out there and goes after one tactic, it's only a matter of time before it changes and they get caught holding the hot potato. Yeah. I've seen this before where someone says, I'm this kind of expert, I'm this kind of expert. And you can grow a business that way. But if you have just one marketing channel, one tactic, it can grow really fast. But then everything can go away really fast too. We saw it in 2005 with the change of the Google algorithm. Recently with Facebook ad changes where everyone's complaining because they were just all tactics based. So the two things, that are ultimately the most important things are having a fundamental strategy that is future proofed, and then understanding that if you are a professional, you need to be providing as much value as possible and not just selling. And then third, just understanding direct response marketing. I think more and more and more we need to understand what used to be a narrow field is now the way that you have to market on the internet, because people want to be marketed to very specifically. So I think those three things. And then, the reason we use video is because video is not going to change. People are going to use video. And if you apply the video content strategy to any tactic, you're going to succeed because you'll be future proofed, like I said, against major changes in algorithms, tactics, etc.
Would you agree that you have to be good at learning in this space because you have to constantly adapt, constantly change?
I think in any business, you have to become a great learner. If you really want to succeed, you have to become a great learner, and you have to learn how to learn, and not only learn, but adapt.
And accept change. Exactly. I've had a few guests who are in their 60s and they are actually killing it on social media, which is amazing to me. Yeah, I'm being biased because of their age, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people, regardless of age, many people, I don't know if you found this as well, it seems like they have difficulty accepting the realities of marketing and what actually works and what it's actually going to take. So, for example, let's say the YouTube end screens and annotations that changed up, like I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, to where now you have to include, or you can include on the end screen, you have like either two video icons, and you can also throw up your subscribe. I remember that before that, it was just like you kind of create this space around maybe your background picture that you put at the end of your video before exporting it and uploading it, at which point YouTube would kind of apply a link overlaying the video and you could just use that. But then that changed. So all the videos from before that you had that end screen on are no longer effective. Like they might have effective information on them, but all the links that you had set up are kind of, you want to just, you have to kind of go back and work with what you already have, which stuff like that can throw people off and annoys people. And a lot of times when that happens so frequently across multiple different platforms, it can become frustrating and it can become almost something people throw their hands up. So what would you tell somebody they have a successful business, but they are having a frustrating time with how fast-paced the marketplace of marketing is changing? And how would you encourage them to stay malleable?
If you have a good strategy in place, if you have a customer-focused strategy in place, a client-focused strategy in place where you're trying to provide as much value as possible to your client, then the tech is secondary, because if you're providing your tribe a lot of value, they're going to move around the tech. The tech should come second, third, fourth, and be making it better, not be your starting point. So if you have that good strategy and then something like that happens, you need to look at it as an opportunity. Anytime that there's a problem like that, it's an opportunity, because everyone else is suffering the same problem as you. You just have to say, well, where are my clients now? What do I want to do next? You adapt to that strategy. Now, everyone has, like, when it comes to the tech being frustrating, well, that's just part of it. But like I said, and where that person, your competition will stop, that's your opportunity to get ahead. And every time you push through one of those obstacles, that's another favorite quote from Ryan Holiday, which he adapted from Marcus Aurelius: the obstacle becomes the way. And you don't make the obstacle go around the obstacle, you go through the obstacle. And that becomes actually your path to success.
So I'm seeing a big trend now. I'm seeing a trend where I'm noticing a lot of social media influencers in particular are taking the vulnerability route and sharing stories and just being more and more real, because it works. Now, one thing you mentioned before was you have to add value. So adding value doesn't necessarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just giving a tangible product or an ebook away, correct? Value could be you actually taking the time to listen to your friends, your following, your tribe, actually engaging with them. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, in fact, I wouldn't call at giving an ebook adding value.
Yeah.
If someone's,
exactly.
If someone's sitting next to you and they have a problem, are you going to give them an ebook? I mean, it's that, right?
Yeah. Totally.
You wouldn't, and you'd be a jack. Sorry if you're swearing, but you would be if you did that, right? You're like, you wouldn't have many friends left. And this is the problem. It's like we're trying to push all these tactics on people instead of saying, hey, talking to them one-on-one. And that's where it starts. The strategy starts knowing that one person you're going to talk to, knowing where they are on their journey. It's so crucial. We think of, when I talk to people about their customer's journey, immediately they start to tell me, well, they tell me about their marketing funnel. They say, well, they opt in here and then they go here and then they're going to buy this and then we're going to upsell them to this. I'm like, no, that's not their journey. That's your process, which is important to have a process, but you have to think about their journey. Where are they? What do they need to hear right now? What will provide value? And sometimes that vulnerability story is the providing value part, right? Because it makes them feel not alone. And that's a lot of value to us, especially in this day of social media, because social media is making a lot of people feel more alone than less alone. And so when you provide the vulnerability story, it's like, hey, I know I'm showing everything's perfect, but it's not. That's what a lot of people need right then. And that's that value at that point in their story. So understanding someone's story, and then what's the story that you can tell them at that point. It's as simple as that, but people get away from it because we get drawn to the tactics. But like I said, if you start with the strategy, what's their story? What's the story that they need? The tactic comes after.
Got it. So going back to your personal story, what are some aha moments that you had that caused you to make a decision to stick with marketing?
I remember when I was marketing, I was just working with attorneys, and I'm sitting there realizing, I'm like, well, we're making websites, we're making videos, and they're all starting to look the same. But as I went and talked to each one of these, I realized that each one of these people want to serve someone different, and they had a different story, and they did something different. We have this idea that we're all trying to serve the same people, which we're not all. The internet's allowed us to talk very specifically to specific people. I realized that everyone has a different story, and that story needs to be told to different people in a different way. And that was one of those aha moments. I remember I was driving across the Triborough Bridge in New York, and I came to that realization. I remember the exact moment. And it was a big aha moment, because before we all thought we were fighting for the same customers, for the same clients, and we're not. We are not. And it's just, we don't believe that there's enough customers and the same clients for us that just want to work with us. So that's why we have that scarcity mentality. And that was a big aha moment. I think that was one of my top ones. And then also, another one is from a tactics standpoint. While you shouldn't start with tactics, one of my favorite tactics is that we were looking at our clients' websites and thousands of videos that we created. We realized that the About Us video is probably the second most used video. We know it is. when we look at Google Analytics. And most people just put like a quick bio up, talk about their education, talk about, where they were, instead of telling truly a story that someone needs right then. And once we start optimizing those About Us videos, we really have allowed people to charge more and become the authority and expert in their market. Probably the biggest aha moment is that when it comes to stories, most people are asking for testimonials of their customers when their customers actually need to tell their stories. But we've gone about this the wrong way. And it's hard for people to get a customer story out. And it's just because of the way they approach it. But your customer story can be used pretty much to market at every point in your business. And people spend so little time. People spend 20 hours on a logo, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I get so frustrated with that. But then they'll just be like, hey, will you give me a testimonial? They've to put no thought into it at all, when it's the most powerful marketing tool that they have.
Appreciate you sharing that. What would you tell people who are new to marketing? So take me, for example. I've been doing social media for a couple of years, so I've been dancing back and forth. I was never fully committed, though, up until this podcast. Would you contrast these two things? One, a business starting a podcast to therefore grow their business. It's a big trend happening right now. And then somebody starting a podcast as a business.
I think it's easier to have a business on the back end of the podcast than to start a podcast as a business. If you're going to start a podcast as a business, you have to come up with a different way to monetize it. There's a good chance. I mean, look at how many podcasts they're super entertaining. And the ones that are really successful that are just entertainment monetized podcasts, meaning that they just monetize like on advertising, are people that already had platforms for the most part. You look at, I love Malcolm Gladwell's podcast and a few of the other ones. So if you're going that route, you got to think of a different way to monetize. But if you have a business on the back end of the podcast and you're using the podcast to grow an existing business, it's so powerful because you're networking, you're developing content, you're learning at the same time. And the networking aspect for me is the most powerful part of it, because I get to know people without, it's not like going to a networking thing where you're like, have small talk. You go straight into business, which I love.
Yeah, I love that too. I know going to networking events, I don't like them at all. Really, just it's unless they're done very well. But if it's specifically supposed to be a networking event, I just don't like them. And something I read recently recommended that if you do go to a networking event, instead of shoveling out a whole box of business cards, try to meet one or two people you actually connect with, have a longer conversation with them, and be okay with just meeting one or two people.
Yeah, great. That's a great methodology.
I agree with you on the podcast. I think it's fantastic to be able to meet people and just network. I was going over the process of producing an episode from start to finish. I'm still doing everything myself. And so I was doing the time calculations, like how long is it going to take me from absolute zero to 100% completed, uploaded, exported on all platforms, including blog posts for one episode. And I remember going through that process. And I was thinking to myself, this is so cool, because after I get the episode recorded, if I really do everything all at once, jump into the edit, jump into writing up a blog post about the episode, it's really journaling and solidifying points from that interview immediately after, which is paramount for retention and, like you said, learning and growing. So the whole point of marketing is to, of course, everybody needs to make money, but not just to make money, but to get yourself out there, get your brand out there, get your business known. So what would you tell people who are new to marketing or just completely intimidated by it and just want to get their brand out there to serve their community?
Well, first, start with who you're serving. Second, serve them very, very specifically. Think of one thing that you can really help them with, and those are the two biggest mistakes I see, is that people try and serve everyone and try and do everything for them. The more specific you are in those two things, the faster you're going to grow. And it's a hard thing, because most of us think, well, the more people I serve, the larger my base will be. And it's actually the opposite, because then you're trying to talk to everyone. If you think about it, probably one of the best quotes out there on it is from James Carville, who was the advisor to the Clinton campaign. And he said, if you say two things, you've said nothing. And it's probably one of my favorite marketing specific quotes. And if you think about it, to run for president, you had to talk to so many different types of people, like infinite, almost different types of people. But he still said, if you said two things, you said nothing. And that's exactly it. If you speak to too many people about too many things, you're going to water down your message. They're not going to remember you. But if you're like, I'm going to help this type of person with this one thing, you can grow your business so fast. And that's what you should be doing. You pick that one person, one thing you're going to sell them, and sell it to $1 million.
Transitioning now, I want to get into how you stayed. You're a proactive individual. You clearly are very driven. So how did you stay resilient over all these years with your work and with your entrepreneurial mindsets?
It's hard sometimes, but it's being surrounded with the right people, seeking out good people, seeking out great people. I've got great friends out there, great peers, being good masterminds, and which is a tough one. But you've got to seek out those coaches, those consultants. You have to be constantly learning, and you have to realize that every failure is a place to learn. Another thing is be careful. Pay attention to and know what you're thinking, because especially if you're on social media a lot, if you want to market through social media, you got to be on social media, and people are marketing to you. Even if they're not marketing directly to you, you can get a lot of bad thoughts, bad ideas from looking at other people's marketing, thinking that they're more successful than they are, thinking that you need to have what they show as success, gauging your success by them, instead of just going, this is what I'm going to do, and go run forward with it. Because it's so easy to pay attention to other people's social media and see the life that they put out there, and not realize that A, part of it's fake, B, it's probably not the success that you want.
For sure. Yeah, I just heard an awesome quote. It was from a John Maxwell book. He said, I think he was quoting somebody else he learned from, but I think the book was called Failing Forward, and it said, failure is fertilizer. And I was like, that's fantastic. I love that quote very much. So for the people out there, like you said, you say connect yourself with like-minded people, seek out coaches, always be learning. Would you recommend a good starting point would be to listen to podcasts? Yeah,
podcasts are a great way to learn, stay informed. I listen to a ton of podcasts and audiobooks all the time. Learning is crucial.
Do you have any techniques for that? Do you stick with like one or two books? I know Tim Ferriss says any more than 2 self-improvement books at one time is a diminishing return.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent, and I think when you get started, you've got to find what works for you and try stuff and realize that not every self-improvement technique is going to work for you. I try and have, a self-development book, but also a technical book, a biographical book, and a fiction book working all at the same time. So across genres, across types. So I'm learning, but also applying what I learned to other things. I find biographies and history books super valuable. There's a lot of great ones out there, and especially like people in modern business. The bio books of them are super, super valuable. And you hear the actual stories. And if you get the behind the scenes stuff, man, that's even better. And then, there are some great books. Then once you find a book that really resonates with you, listen to it, have it as your go-to when things aren't working. Audible calls it book in a box. Find the people that you resonate with and pay attention to them. And if it's not working for you, move on.
Yeah, I would even recommend finding people that maybe you don't resonate 100% with, or maybe not people, but learning. For me personally, I grew up not enjoying reading unless it was like a novel that I just fell in love with, which that happened from time to time. I was just always outside playing. So I was that kid that didn't want to sit down and read. Eventually, I get to a place where I'm after college. One thing that helped me immensely was realizing sitting down, focusing on written paperback book is not one of my strengths. So I could develop that and keep fighting that. But I was noticing year after year that I wasn't actually reading the books that I was buying in their entirety. So I said, you know what? I'm going to invest into audiobooks. And it really changed the game for me because I started ingesting a lot more information. And it also allowed me to basically get through a lot of books without having to sit down and read them. I still enjoyed sitting down and reading now. Yeah, just recognizing what works for you, like you said, is very, very helpful.
Yeah, super important. Finding the way that you learn is very, very important.
Yeah, and being okay with it, because I almost had a sense of shame attached with like, well, why I should be able to sit down and read like a book a week. So going into the Heart Healthy Hustle round, Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
What activity do you use to care for and strengthen your internal character?
I mean, reading and probably meditation.
Health. How do you maintain your physical health when your default mode is just to be on full bandwidth all the time?
I try and just walk in the gym every day and surround myself with support, like my buddy Glenn Dawson.
Okay, so for the last category is hustle. What's your main motivation for doing what you do? Be as vulnerable as you want. I asked a close friend of mine, I said, man, what is your motivation? Why do you get up early every day? Why do you work so hard? He works like 7 days a week, taking time for his family. But he told me, he's like, look, I grew up without enough and I kind of had to fight for food almost at times. So he works as hard as he does because he never wants to see his wife, having to stuff their kids into an old broken down, like an old car, like a Honda Civic or something with safety issues. So that's like a very visceral example as to why he hustles to the max of his potential. But what about you? What is your reasoning for that?
I just want to make sure to live up to my potential and give back as much as possible. And, I think that at the end of a life, most people regret not living up to their potential. That's probably the number one thing. So
let's go ahead into your 3 most influential books and why. And feel free to throw in any biographies or autobiographies too.
Yeah. I loved War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's one of those I listen to and read all the time. The Tao Te Ching, which is, I've been rereading for 20 years now. And then bios. I mean, one of my favorite bios is Jim Henson's. I love his vision. It really understanding who he was and his approach to life.
Who was Jim Henson?
Jim Henson was the creator of The Muppets and Sesame Street.
Okay, cool. Any software tools that you recommend using, could be paid or free, that my listeners could go and download a Chrome extension, anything that would help them just to take a small action today? Yeah, the more you want to share, the better. The more you want to share, the better. You can just start listing off names.
Yeah, I use Evernote a lot. Mm-hmm. I think Evernote because it's stability. We use Teamwork, LastPass. Yeah, keeping good notes and managing your passwords allows you to do a lot of other stuff.
Let's go back in time now. I started calling this the park bench paradigm. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. Fail faster. Don't listen to everyone. I think making the decisions, making good decisions and learning from them is important. You don't necessarily have to trust them, because you're going to make bad decisions. But learning to make good decisions is super, super important. And then the way you do that is by making more decisions. Well, I mean, and you have to have logical confidence in them. And then you'll develop over time an intuition, which is just an emotional decision making.
So how do you fail faster?
Do more things and accept that they didn't work and how you're going to change them.
So how do you know when to accept that they didn't work? Because I know for some people, they can get stubborn or they say, I already invested this much time and resources into this and they're afraid to move on.
Well, that's something I've learned from trading is once you get into a trade, you won't know where to get in and out. You have to plan before what does success look like. If you don't know what success looks like, how will you know when you succeeded? So what does success look like when you make a decision and what does failure look like? And where will you keep going? Where will you not? If I go back in time too, now that I'm thinking about it, getting more focused, staying focused on one thing. When we start the business, I tried to do too much and was able to do too much, and it spread us thin.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, because it's so easy to say, I can help someone with this, and I can help someone with this, and instead of saying that this is the one thing I'm going to do, and do it over and over and over again. Because as entrepreneurs, we get bored with stuff, we get shiny object syndrome, and we don't believe that we're providing enough value to do that thing over and over and over again.
One thing I love is done is better than perfect. Okay, it has to be high quality, so I'm not going to release it until blah, 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 blah. And there go the list of excuses. So 2 things that are really helping me personally in my life are done is better than perfect. And also there's no excuse. So even quality, it doesn't matter. There's no excuse. Just don't try to do too much, but stay focused. Do you have any advice for anybody who is struggling to focus in, or any tips that you would give, any tactics in terms of how to do that outside of just eating healthy?
As far as like staying focused on one business thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in trading, you find one or two types of trades and you go after those. There's infinite ways to trade and succeed. But there was a saying in trading: bears make money, bulls make money, pigs get slaughtered. And what that means is that, if you're trying to do everything, go up and down and back and forth, that's where you get slaughtered. It's the same thing in business. It's finding one thing that works, that you somewhat enjoy doing, and repeating it, and find something that's highly valuable to people. And the best thing you can do is understand if there's a certain type of person that you want to serve, understand that's a customer journey. I mean, if you look at the history of Amazon, Jeff Bezos knew what he ultimately wanted Amazon to do is be this ultimate marketplace. But he started by selling books online. He saw the opportunity there of selling books online and selling for cheaper, and really nailed that down before moving on to stuff like Prime, et cetera, et cetera. You can have that ultimate vision. You can build what I call an idea bench and start having those ideas and saying, once I get this idea to succeed, then I'm going to move forward. But also you have to make sure that your customer, if it's something that people don't want or need, that's a problem. I mean, if you have a vision that, I'm solving a problem, an actual problem, that's great. But I've also seen on the flip side where the reason they're not focused is because they're selling something that people don't want or need. So it's a tough one. And it's once again, it's making that decision and then changing on it. Look back also to the history of Facebook. They might have had the vision of what Facebook was, but it was an online dating platform. But they stayed focused until it was time to pivot. But they pivoted. They didn't add something on. That's the key. Make yourself a goal of at least $1 million and sell to it one thing. I think the simplest way to do that is don't start selling other stuff till you get over $1 million in sales on one thing, one very specific thing.
Got it. What is the most valuable marketing lessons that you've learned after interviewing so many people on your podcast?
That's it comes down to strategy and customer stories. Everyone starts with their customer story and the stories that they need to hear. I mean, from Rick Cesari on, that's how they develop great content and care about those people. I would say that's probably the most valuable thing. Strategy
and customer stories.
Yep.
Got it. Right on. How can my audience connect with you and get in touch with what you're doing?
Sure. I mean, I made a specific place that they can opt into a training that I have. It's basically how we help customers find their customer stories, how we've helped them develop the content, and you can quickly go through, learn the 4 myths that are holding most professionals back, and how you can become the authority using video. It's about an hour and 20-minute training. There's no pitch at the end. There's an opportunity to talk to me afterwards. If you go to authenticweb.media/hearthustle, and we'll send that over to you. You can put it in the show notes. People can click on that image and pop over the show notes. It's our training on how to use video, how to develop that strategy and really use video no matter what happens with the tactics.
I really appreciate that.
Yes. authenticweb.media/hearthustle.
Fantastic.
Once again, start with your customer's journey. Pick out one scene that you're going to help them in and give them the content that they want and need at that point.
I appreciate you being on the show, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it, Jonathan.
Thank you for listening to the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you. And also, I want you to ask yourself why. What about this episode really stood out to you? I want to challenge you to take action on that thing. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate your time and consideration to go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes. So it really helps the podcast grow and we can impact even more people who need this. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I will see you in the next episode.